Welcome back to the podcast. This week's guest is Luke Hinton. Luke Hinton runs a company called Juicebox Live, which books bands for various venues and does interviews and other stuff. Luke is also part of the Music Venue Trust, and we spoke about that. We spoke about booking gigs, and also we spoke about his early life growing up and how you get into all this, how you get into music in general, and also what COVID's effect has been on the music industry. And at the end of the show, we spoke about his 4 heroes to come for dinner. Hope you all enjoy the podcast, and I'll be back soon with another episode. Luke Hinton, thank you very much for coming on the podcast, Time for Heroes podcast. Just if you start off, just be telling us where you grew up and what life is like in your formative years and how that led you into the work that you're in now.
Yeah, no problem. I grew up in a town called Hemel Hempstead, which is about 25 miles northwest of London, sort of between, near Watford, between Watford and Luton. So there's we end up in a lot of rivalry between Watford and Luton football fans, but it's a new town. It's something that it's a bit of a wasteland at times. It's one of those new towns where everything's purpose built, has its little pockets of history, but there's definitely a lot of things of lost identities. People being like my family were evacuated from East London in the war, or North London, and there was kind of that element, and there's definitely that sort of feeling around the towns like Hemel, Stevenage, Harlow, those sort of places where it's kind of people still think that they're part of London, but that bit's outside of it. So for me, growing up, it's look, there's nice areas. I come from a working class background. It's something I went to school, did A levels. Grew up in my teenage years were sort of the Britpop years. So there was a lot of sort of music about. Football was the whole sort of birth of the Premier League. So there was suddenly that on TV all the time. And so the year I did my GCSEs was 1996, and we had Euro 96 happening sort of just down the road and going to games about that. And I'd say the whole Britpop thing was at its peak. So music, soundtracking, all of that so those formative years. And for me, that year I ended up at Nebworth as well. So I was lucky enough to get tickets to go to Nebworth, which is only about half an hour away from where I live. So it was all of that happening. Very fortunate that my dad and mum were both really heavily into their music. So I had their record collections to listen to, and there was definitely a thing of listening to bands, say like Oasis or Blur. You kind of then took the next steps of going, well, what were they influenced by? And obviously Oasis, there was that very obvious Beatles influence, but then they were covering bands like Slade and even Bowie and artists like that. And my mum and dad had that, so I'd sit there and listen to that. I then, obviously, after doing GCSEs, did A levels, which I kind of did a lot of sport in it. It was one of those of playing. The excuse was to continue playing football as much as I possibly could, and then getting a job in a pub. And it was kind of that sort of thing of just a fun going out with my mates and going to gigs and things like that. Then I went to uni for a year, and around that sort of time, again, a lot of us kind of fell out of love with music in a weird way, because we'd had those highs of the Britpop years. The music was coming through with bands which are huge bands now. Your Coldplays, Muse, Stereophonics, even to an extent, was that end of Britpop thing. And a lot of us there going, it's just not the same. And we all went raving.
There wasn't the same energy. Went there, no, it kind of.
I think it was. I think it was
like acoustic bands.
Yeah, it was the thing of, and obviously I've seen like there was the Live Forever sort of documentary which kind of talked about it, that sort of mid-90s Britpop euphoria was very drug orientated in terms of things like cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas that late 90s thing tended to be more sort of downers and sort of heroin, but then became more dancey elements of things came in, which completely created a different thing, or started to have that undercurrent, I think, which you then sort of saw in the early part of the 2000s. And it was definitely a thing of when I was at uni that, yeah, we were going to clubs and doing all the student stuff, but it was a lot more focused on things like garage and two-step and drum and bass. But that was, again, but I was going to him going, but this is crap as well. And I just remember hearing the Strokes, and then it was like, okay, I love music again, and Libertines, and then that whole movement.
Yeah.
And
like
by that time,
this is like the 19th episode of the podcast, and pretty much every one they reference back to the Strokes and the Libertines changing it, because it was that monumental, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the thing is, obviously, my promotion company is called Juicebox, which is after the Strokes song. So it is kind of a thing of that was a big thing, but again, in the elements of like the Britpop side of things, was that it was fashion as well as the music. You could turn up at a club, or you could walk down the street, and you'd have your Trilby on, or your Converse, or your skinny jeans, or your leather jacket, or your tunic, like your army sort of regalia, and you could tell what people listened to, and you could tell you're all part of the same gang. And that to me was something that it kind of had that unity and that thing. It was like the whole indie look. And I think you've got what's it called? The sleaze indie sort of phase that's coming through for a younger generation at the moment. And it's like sitting there going, well, actually, that was just what we wore. And that's what I still tend to wear a lot of the time. Probably less so of the skinny jeans, but still definitely lots of polo shirts and Converse and all of that. But it was something that made me just go, yeah, that's what I love, and that's what it's about. And started going to more gigs than I'd ever been able to. And it was kind of in the early 2000s, obviously that happened. But round by mid sort of 2000s, I was going out every single night to Camden.
Right.
And I was living in Watford at the time, and I was getting the train into London. It was just because that's where everything was happening. And then in 2007, myself and a couple of friends, my friends had been doing an indie club night.
Right.
And I was like, look, we need to get some live bands playing. We know loads of bands. We'll sort it out. And we kind of just decided to hire a hall and put these nights on. And I was like, yeah, I know bands, they'll play. And it was always, let's get some local bands we know, and let's find this band that we're going up to watch in London. Surely we've got these great spaces, we can do it. And I'll be honest, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have a clue, but it worked. People came to them, and it was like, and part of it was sitting there going, we don't have to buy drinks at the bar either.
Yeah.
We can get a case of beer and stick it in the dressing room and help ourselves to it. It was kind of this thing of going, all right, loads of people are turning up. We can play whatever music we want. We can put on bands we want. And it was kind of, that's where it all sort of started. It was just kind of, nothing was happening that we wanted in our local area.
So you made it happen.
So we did it. And that was kind of, that's how it started. And it was there just to do that as much as we felt was right. Well, I say we felt as much as right. The others kind of, after about 6 months, went, no, this is happening. We're doing too much. We've got proper jobs. Well, I was like, yeah, but it's fun, isn't it? And they're like, yeah, we can't be going out every night still and keeping our jobs. And my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, the two of us went, well, we're going to do more. And a couple of venues approached us and said, do you want to do some nights, like a monthly night at our venues? And it's kind of snowballed from there. And it was just the thing of, it's just, we loved doing it. And it was going to watch live music and discovering great new bands and all of these things of it just been, oh, actually, it's just a bit of fun. It's what it's about. And there was never any intention of it becoming what it's become. It was something never even thought that it probably lasts more than a couple of years of doing it. I say this year will be 15 years since the first Juicebox gig.
Right.
And it is that thing that was like, well, yeah, no one told me I could make a living out of doing something that I love. I always thought it'd be like, no, it's kind of all just done. It's like, if we broke even on every show we'd done, it was like, that was a win. But
so what were you doing at university?
I did sports studies with leisure management.
Right.
Again, I'd say 1 year, and then kind of went, this isn't for me. Because when I'd been doing my A-levels and I was working in bars and things like that, I'd been earning money. And I went to university, and then suddenly that stopped, and I was kind of like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I don't even know where this degree's going. It was, I'm doing it because it'll be pretty much an easy course for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be something, again, I enjoy, just, again, a bit of sport and a bit of music here and there. Because I was university in Walsall, University of Wolverhampton, the Walsall campus, and I spent obviously a few nights going to Birmingham. But it was the thing of, it was kind of, I did okay in my A-levels and things like that, so it was almost expected of me to then continue the education side of things with when I like with my parents and grandparents, but it was kind of a thing going, there's no direction of what I want to do.
Yeah.
I end up coming back, well, after about a year, ended up working in a bank. So it was kind of, so that was things, I was going to gigs every night whilst working in a bank. But it was just kind of one of those, is that there was no real direction of what I wanted to do. But it was one of those things of, music had always played a key part. And it was just something of, when I was 17, 18, 19, I thought I was going to be the next Liam Gallagher, like every 17, 18-year-old at that point did.
Yeah.
I learned the chords to Wonderwall. I played that here and there, stood there with my hands behind my back trying to be Liam. And it was around that sort of point, by the time I'd come back from uni, it was like, well, I'm not going to be a front man in a band. I'm not going to be a lead guitarist. I'm not going to be in a band. I'm not going to be committed to learning an instrument at this point, because I want to be out. I want to be going and watching it and enjoying it. I guess that's where the promoter side of it came, was that when I started doing that again, I was sitting there going, hang on, how can I be involved in this? And how can I don't want to be a front man. I don't want to be the thing that it's all about me. Although there's probably enough people who probably say that that's not the case, that sometimes so my brother or someone like that might say that's the case. But it's definitely an element of no, actually, I feel as though I can still get involved and do something.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why there's people like me and like yourself and all these other people that we get just as much of a passion for the music, but we've maybe not got the time to put into learning an instrument, or you're just no good at it, but you still want to show your passion in another way. So podcasts and promoting and managing or whatever, it's just another way sticking your love for the music, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh no, without doubt. And to me, it's the thing of one of the prides of from the very early days is being able to put on and book and give bands opportunities to play, and those who are more talented than I ever was, and probably having more guts than I ever had to get up there and perform countless times on stage. And it is that thing of those next generation of artists. Again, 15 years ago, I never thought that. Look, I'm in a position that I'm booking artists for showcase nights at the venues that we program now, who weren't born when the first Juicebox night happened.
Right.
So it is the thing of, I would like to think that at some point someone will say to me, we met at one of your nights, and that kid that's playing.
Yeah.
Because we met at one of your nights, basically. And it's like, that to me will be the next stage of things, of people talking to me. We've had people get engaged on stage, and we've had various things happen like that. But it is the thing of, there was an element of when I started, I was booking, I'd say, my peers, but even those who were slightly younger were only 5-6 years younger than me. Whereas now there is definitely an element of, yeah, I am definitely old enough to be your parent. I am definitely old enough to be a teacher or something. So the way that I feel as though you looked at is changed over the years, and it's something that we've in the last 4 years, 5 years, have had a focus on developing new people in the industry as well.
Right. So going back then to kind of the start of Juicebox, what was your role then? Obviously, just kind of promoting.
Band booker. I was probably the band booker. As a team, we all promoted and did what we could, and all stood on street corners handing out flyers and all of that side of things. And it was still the MySpace days, so there was all that, and then it was but yeah, I was one who went, I'll book the bands. I guess I was one who went and spoke to the venues. I kind of got it kind of ball rolling, whereas the others were like, well, we've got our local pub or bar that we can do our indie night, and we've got a little sort of crowd of 20, 30 people who come to it every week. But I was kind of the lead booker.
Yeah. And I mean, it isn't an easy job. I've maybe organised in my life. I've organised like 3 gigs, like the same sort of thing, maybe like 3 or 4 bands on a night. But it's so hard to. You're not dealing with just 4 bands. You're dealing with 4 different people in one band and 5 people for this band, and the minute one person pulls out, it can all fall apart. It's really hectic, and it's
at the beginning, it was a lot of trial and error. It was something that, in a way, it was kind of like we booked, say, a lot of the early shows. It was bands and that we knew personally, so it'd be something that bands we'd gone out and supported as fans of them, or were mates really, and then bringing in a band from further afield, and it was kind of something of doing that to let's say, I think because there was a trust from us to them, is that they knew what they were doing, but we were trying to give that thing. Yeah, we do know what we're doing. We've got a venue and there's a PA, and I think I remember the first thing, some of the terminology people using, going up, even things like advancing. It was like, what's that? And it was kind of a thing of like working it all out, and it was kind of we can't just learn as we went, and it was fun at the end of the day. I think I was drunk most of the time as well, so it couldn't.
Yeah, well, that's the first one that I did. I think I ended up, I get that drunk, I had to get carried home because I think I was that nervous that I drank so much. But one of the problems that I encountered as well, obviously the headline band brought the drum kit that everybody else used, which I thought that's fine. I'd worked that out. But the second band that we're on, the drummer said, I can't use this drum kit because it's a 4-piece drum kit and I play drums in a 5-piece. So it's like things like that you don't realise is going to be an issue until it becomes an issue.
Oh, and it'd be the thing of you sitting there going, okay, everyone's agreed to share a kit, and suddenly one of them goes, well, our drummer's left-handed and you've given us a 15-minute changeover and you've got to do this.
Yeah.
But there has been a thing of learning and going, actually, well, some of that communication needs to be done between the bands early, rather than actually, as the promoter, I'm like, well, actually, I've got a technical team now who get involved in that. But it is the thing of going, what I've learned over the years is going, actually, how do you preempt some of these answers? Or what's going to happen? Because at the end of the day, it is the thing of you provide as much information up front and literally go, there you are, there's everything you need. So before you ask me the question, where can you park? It's already in the pack you've been sent about the venue. If you ask me X, Y, Z, it's like you've already been sent it. It's like, and it'll be one of those saying, is there a drum kit at the venue? No. Okay. This is the artist's responsibility to do it. If you want us to sort it, we will ask you to make sure you are dealing with all of the promotion of the event.
Right.
And it is kind of thing, we will work together, but, and we've had a show where, look, ultimately we will help find everything. We will be able to contact it. But if you'll sit there and say, look, we've advanced the show 5 weeks, 6 weeks before a gig, and the bands have been booked well before that as well. And at the point of booking or at the point of advancing, the artists are told there isn't any backline or something like that, and this is a local level sort of show. I would say that between 3 or 4 local bands, if they are unable to source a drum kit between them with that much notice, I am more than happy for them to stand there on the night and tell their fans who've turned up that they've not been able to bring instruments to a local performance. Because I would also question, if a band is ready to perform, they should have access to everything they need to be able to perform.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter about how every other band is going to get on, because it's down to them to ensure that they are ready to do their gig, because that's what they're there to do. We'll make sure that everything else is set up. But if it was something that they're sitting there going, look, we've got a legitimate reason we can't do something, we don't own a kit, or they've been added to a show late notice, or it's not been advanced in time, then I'll jump in and get hold of a kit and sit there. But I'll sit there and say, look, if it's 6 weeks before and they're saying, oh, we don't have a kit.
Yeah, you get 6 weeks to get one.
Here's a hire company. It's like, in the day, how do you rehearse? Oh, there's a kit at the studio. Speak to your studio, see if they'll let you borrow it. And it's things like that you learn as you do it. And 99 times out of 100, there isn't a problem.
Right.
Every so often there is, but it's kind of, I would rather us be focusing on making sure that everything's right for the show in all aspects of it. But as long as the information has been given, if you don't give the information, then you're as at fault as they are.
Mm-hmm. So obviously at the start you were booking, promoting. How's your role evolved, or is it still the same but just in a bigger scale?
Elements of it are the same. In terms of I am still booking, I am still promoting events, but for probably 8-9 years, I've held the diary at the Horn in St Albans. So I've been booking that venue for that period of time. I now have 2 other venues that I book or we book the diary for. So one 100 capacity venue, which is the Half Moon in Bishop Stortford, the Horn, which is 200 capacity venue in St Albans, and as of last week, we reopened a venue called Hertford Corn Exchange, which is a 250 cap venue, but with the view that hopefully we'll get out to 350, 400 capacity soon once we can get permission for another fire escape. In that time, I've been the head booker of a small festival, but I've also actually in the last sort of 18 months, 2 years, I restructured the way it was all done and all set up. Is that I had previously been running it as a sole trader because there was no need for it. It felt no need to do it any differently.
Mm-hmm.
But with COVID, there was an element of I've got shows where there's large guarantees attached to them, and the uncertainty of coming out of COVID 18 months ago, there was like, well, actually, these shows are still contracted. I don't know where ticket sales are going to go. I don't know how it's all going to go. And there was definitely an element of, how do I protect that? And it was something, and we restructured Juicebox Live as Juicebox Live Promotions Limited. So I created it as a limited company, as much for the protection of what we do. But at the same time, I then set up a community interest company, which was aimed at development and training.
Right.
And as a not-for-profit organisation. So it became something of going, actually, we can do those 2 separate things, but they're almost under the same umbrella.
Yeah, I had a look at the website just before we came on, and the website's cracking. There's tons of stuff on it, obviously, like the Juicebox TV stuff as well.
That was another COVID thing, and it was something of Mika, who's the host of it.
Uh-huh.
He's in was in a couple of local bands. He's in one now called Count Paris, he was there, and he got in, and he said, "Look, I'm kind of at a loose end. Have you got any work going?" But no, because I've got no gigs happening. Everything's shut down. So we just got chatting, and he said to me, "It's like, well, I'm doing a media course at college." I was like, "Well, do you fancy doing a YouTube channel or something?" I said, "It's completely your thing. You run with it. What I'll do is I'll just contact people I know who work in the industry and say, well, do they want to do an interview? If it's artists we've got coming up, or it's people I work with or know, but also local artists or sort of better known names." It's kind of a thing of, it was like, it's just something to do. It's something to put out there, have some content. Let's do things, let's promote what's happening, because we don't know how long it's going to go on. And then he's kind of managed to find work, but it was something he straight away was like, I've got something to put on my CV now. All the stuff I did at college is great, but there's 20 of us doing the course. Whereas actually having this thing and having this evidence that I've done this. And it was like, well, if you want to go into it, you've got that as a show reel almost.
Yeah.
And it was something, just saying, doing that, and the development and training thing was something I guess we were doing unintentionally. There was definitely elements of when you're programming working in venues that we had people come through who had worked in box office or be part of the bar team, and they'd be like, "Oh, do you mind if I do a bit of show repping or whatever it may be?" And you're kind of doing the training just because you have your team of people there. And about 5 years ago, I think, probably maybe not quite as long as that, but we had a team that kind of, none of them are part of what we do now, but 4 of them have got full-time jobs in the music industry.
Right.
All of them started box office.
That's
all
brilliant.
round about the same time. One of them's a tour manager. One's the head of A&R for an independent label that's got offices in London and Austin. One of the team is working for Universal as a plugger. And so I said tour manager. The other guy's also working as a tour manager. So the 2 of them.
That's amazing then for people to come in, because then they can see that there's a career path, and you're not just going to be stuck with taking abuse after fans looking for tickets. Yeah, and that to me was the thing of like, well, actually, none of them came in wanting to do the role they're now doing, because none of them, I felt, actually probably knew they existed. Yeah. And it was kind of, or it was something that there was an opportunity for them to do it. But I know the guys who are tour managing, they kind of got into it because they were meeting touring bands and having these conversations. And there was definitely an element in a couple of them turning around saying, I could do that. Literally, I'd be better at that job than they are, because I rep shows every single night. So I know what to expect. A couple of them, they're in bands, but we're all still really close, and we meet up a couple of times a year, and we've got WhatsApp groups where we still talk about, we're talking about music constantly, and it is that thing of, to me, I'm like, well, that isn't something 15 years ago I ever thought would be an opportunity to give someone the opportunity to have those first footsteps in a music industry, because everything that I had to do, we had to do it ourselves. Yeah, and then that's the thing. At that time, there wasn't the same opportunities. You had to make them. So you know how grateful you would have been for it. Yeah, and then during COVID, we got support from the Arts Council. So I did an application through the CIC to do a new promoter development course, to offer it was 4 opportunities in different districts, not far, so like Bedford, St Albans, Hemel Hempstead, and Bishop Stortford, East Hertfordshire regions, for people under the age of 25 who hadn't been through the higher education system, to train up to be a promoter. It was originally meant to be a 4-month course,
It took a year because we couldn't actually they couldn't actually put on their shows. So they'd end up having 12 months worth of training before they could do their shows. And it was kind of a thing of going, well, actually, when I went to university, I didn't study event management. So my view is that almost that if you're going through that path in higher education, well, actually, at the end of it, you should be ready to be getting a job in that. Whether you choose to do it yourself or whether you go and work for a large sort of company or whoever it may be, you've had that support. And so you should be there ready to do it. Someone who left school at 16 or whatever it may be, but is passionate about live music, well, that's probably the qualification they need, is that they're going to be passionate about it. The only thing they didn't have or don't have is the financial support to put on a show. Because I was lucky that I was working in a reasonably paid job. It was also in an era before the credit crunch, where suddenly the whole crash had happened. It was a couple of years before that. So actually it was like, well, if it doesn't work, I'll stick it on a credit card. Whereas there was definitely something I've noticed with the generation of people who've got in touch about hiring the venues, except we don't want to lose money. We can't afford to lose any money. And it's like, okay, it's 200 quid. You'll make that the next show. It'll be fine. Is that if you're passionate, people will turn up. There's definitely a lot more awareness. And it's kind of, to me, I was like, well, I'm the other side of 40. Yeah. So where's the next generation of promoters? So to me, there was an element of going, I want to try and provide people that opportunity to come through and work with us and grow. And say out of the 4, we've still got 3 as part of the team. And they're all working as promoters in the team, sort of part-time, but they're all working in doing repping of shows and box office and doing bar work at the venues and all of that. And it is the thing of going, well, if that to me gives those people that opportunity to put on their own gigs and they're all under 25, and it's the thing of sitting there going, well, actually, they love what they're doing. And
that's you passing down the baton, isn't it? I think it's something you should be proud of. That's a really good thing.
Yeah, it's a bit. Well, it's also part of it to try and make my life a little bit easier. Yeah, because it means that as we're taking on extra venues, that actually the workload can be spread around. And but I think, like I was saying before, as you sit there and go, well, the kids who are coming through are looking at me perhaps as a parental or teacher figure, a person of authority, just because of the natural thing of an age difference. Whereas if you've got someone who's their peer, those conversations will be a lot different to what I would have with them. And I think that's key. And I think those relationships are as important, because I think the next generation of artists should be dealing with people who they relate to. You also, as much as I'd love it if they were all into the same music as me, everyone coming through was listening to great new music and it was all very indie influenced or Britpop influenced, it'd be quite a boring music scene. And I think it should be something that what the music that's coming out and the new bands coming through should be talking to that generation. And as much as I'd like to think I've got a good ear for music, I also know that I'm not necessarily the target audience for what the bands are trying to do. So as much as I can offer advice, it's actually getting people who really get it, but also they don't have to be putting on just indie music or rock music. It is something of the whole thing that the new promoters were told is they are your nights.
This is a pattern with music. It's not as much like, I think the younger ones nowadays, the younger music fan, they seem to have a broader spectrum of different artists that they like, whereas pretty much me, I was kind of the Libertines and all those guitar-based bands. It was all that, and before that it was Britpop, whereas now people can like the bands and they can like grime and they can like R&B and whatever.
I think I totally agree, and it is something that, and I was very similar to you when I first started. It was very much, we were Juicebox indie when we started. It was like we were an indie night, and that was it. And obviously, when I started booking a venue, it became the thing of, well, actually, I can't just book indie bands. It has to be a bit more wider the spectrum. But it then became a thing of getting to know different bands. And in St Albans, one of the biggest success stories of artists is Enter Shikari.
Mm-hmm.
And all the members of the bands have very varying tastes in music. And the thing is that there will be things that they were fans of Oasis, but there's also they're fans of drum and bass. But you listen to their music and you go, actually, I can hear the different influences. And they were there at hardcore punk gigs in the town. They were part of that scene coming through. And to me, it's the thing of, it's something when I've offered or done artist development sessions at the venue and done these free entry events, and saying to bands, come along and watch any event. Literally, if you want to come along and it's a showcase thing or whatever it may be, if you want to drop me a message and get in for free, then I'll sort it out, because I want to see you here. Because I can categorically say that every band that's playing in their first band, that will not be the band that makes it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll be playing covers, you'll be doing all of the bits, because that's you getting out there for the first time. But also, one of the band will go to university and then never move back home, or one of them will get a partner and basically choose not to, actually it's not for them. And that's just the nature of what things are. And it's not to say that the band wasn't good. Invariably, they probably weren't that great, but you're going to learn and you're going to find things. But also, how do you find that new bass player? Well, actually, by getting to know other bands and finding people who actually work on the same wavelength as you. But also, how do you develop your own sound? Well, actually going and listening to different things, and watching what other bands are doing, because you can definitely learn from each other.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the most iconic front people in the world have undoubtedly stolen the way they perform off others.
Yeah.
But to me, it is, well, I say stolen. They've used parts of it to their own merit, and I think that's something that it's going out there and you're being supportive of your local scene.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, like festivals, a lot of festivals are like that as well. Like, I'm looking back, I went to Tea in the Park one year. It was like I went to see Libertines, and Wu-Tang Clan were on, and then it was Placebo, and then it was Libertines, like all one after each other. So there's a crowd of Libertines fans. We went it there down the front. We went it there early, so we were there for Wu-Tang Clan. So you've got all these different elements. You had like people there to see Wu-Tang Clan, people there to see Placebo, and you had people there to see Libertines, and it's all a different mixture of different fans, and everybody got on well. There wasn't any bother, like there wasn't any trouble or anything like that. But I think that was back then when I started learning to kind of that you do need to listen to other stuff that might be out in your comfort zone. Because how else do you can't just have a closed ear to music. You need to.
No, 100%. It's got to be something. And by being a venue booker and having to listen to different things, because I couldn't avoid doing that, I've discovered some incredible things. And it was things that I would, 15 years ago, I probably wouldn't have even given the time of day. And I've gone to festivals to watch bands, and 15 years ago, that band was playing and I would avoid it because I'd be like, no, I'm not going to like that. Now I've gone to see those artists and gone, they're incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Some I'll go, I still don't get it. It's still not for me, but that's the beauty of music.
Yeah.
Is that not everyone's going to like exactly the same things, but everyone will have some form of music that moves them.
So what's the plan going forward then? Obviously, as you mentioned, you've took on this new place of Corn Exchange, and you're going to try and up the capacity. But what's the plan after that? Are you looking at something bigger again?
I think with that, it's kind of establishing that as the venue which we know it can be. That's such a big thing for the next, probably, I'd say it's probably going to take 2 to 3 years to really establish it. I think we've got some great things lined up, and we've got great things that we're working on. But I think for it there to be in that regular cycle of venues, like you're going to see the name on tour posters all the time, will take a few years. So there's going to be a lot of focus on that. There's always little things bubbling away that we're looking at. I'd love to take on more venues and have more people working in the team and take on more promoters, so that we're able to really focus on that grassroots sort of future of music in my region, but also ultimately the UK. But there's things I'm still looking at potential festivals that we can do, because I've been involved in booking festivals, as I said, but there's a couple of things of looking at what we can do with that. There's local authorities have been approaching me about things for this summer with the Jubilee. So there's things of what we can do with that. And a dream of mine would actually to get a venue opened in my hometown, being it's the largest town in the county, yet it doesn't have an entertainment facility. I think somewhat criminal, but as I mentioned at the very start, it's a new town where everything's purpose built.
Yeah.
So therefore, your back room of a pub type venue, which has been there for 150 years, and it's kind of just as it wasn't built for that. These places were built just to be square boxes, basically, and it becomes very tough to do things because they're also normally in the heart of a residential area. Mm-hmm. So to me, there's something of looking at if there's things that can be done on that, but it's just constantly being busy. I think it's something that I've had various people I know say to me they don't know how to find the time to do certain things, but I've got a very understanding wife who but is also passionate about music and set up Juicebox with me. So she understands why.
So what's her role in the company?
She doesn't have any. Well, say I'm trying to think what. In the promotion company, she doesn't have any role now. But she was kind of a partner in it. But since we've had kids, she's taken more of a backseat role in that side of it. But she is the secretary of the CIC, mm-hmm. and sort of a co-director within that. And she's the director of a bar company that we operate as well. So it's something. So she's still got a few things going there, but she is also a full-time mum, which I say does enable me to kind of be out a lot more than I guess most parents tend to be. But then that is the nature of my work. So, she's very understanding that when I need to be out till 2 a.m, I will be driving home at 2 a.m, and it's not like it was 15 years ago where.
Yeah,
it'd then be 9 o'clock the next day that I'd be rolling in, and also going to things like Glastonbury or South by Southwest Festival or the Great Escape or Liverpool Sound City, whatever it may be, where I'm going to check out new artists. 10 years ago, it would have been the two of us together doing it, and now it'll be less so. And some of these events you'll still come to with the kids, but she won't be running around trying to catch 30 bands in a day. So there's definitely a lot more of, but that's where we brought in the new people, and the team that we brought in was because Rachel was having to take less of an active role, but is obviously just there, still as supportive of it as ever, and still pretty much one of the brainchilds of the whole thing.
That all sounds brilliant. I'm just towards the end there. I'd like to ask you about this Revive Live tour. Were you involved in that?
I was throughout COVID, I worked for Music Venue Trust from April 2020 to October 2021, which was initially meant to be a 3-month role. Mm-hmm. Obviously, no one knew how long everything was going to go on for. That was to support venues, and I was the East England coordinator for Music Venue Trust, and I had roughly about 90 venues that I was in contact with the sole aim of keeping them open, and that they would survive to the point of being able to reopen. And thankfully, all of those which fell into my region have got to that point. So, but as I say, the role then finished in October. But round about that time, there was a deal struck between Music Venue Trust and the National Lottery, and which was titled Revive Live, and it was the Revive Live tours, and that with the help of lottery funding, it helped to get artists back into venues, crew working, and all basically subsidised. And the basis being that tickets were 2 for 1 for lottery players to attend, basically to bring a +1 to get people back into venues. But I say getting artists playing, and I say it meant that there was no risk financially to anyone, and there was a lot of speaking to agents about getting bands out to play. And the first round I was involved with in terms of helping to coordinate it, and as a promoter, it's kind of what I did anyway, with a brilliant team, like headed up by Rebecca, who had previously worked at Lead Mill, and Danny from the Sugar Mill in Stoke, and various others who work in the industry. And it was kind of a thing of, we got offered some great shows, and artists like Fontaine's DC played the Road Mender in Northampton, and Tom Jones played Cambridge Junction, and so that all was obviously the first lot, and it really did help get basically people back and doing what they love, and it kind of kick-started that a bit. And then there was another round in January, which I wasn't involved in the coordinating of it, but I had some shows as part of it, and we had Carl Barrett from the Libertines play at the Horn, which is a show which, from day one, I've always wanted to be able to get him in to come and perform at the Horn, but just the nature of the venue capacity has meant that financially it hadn't been viable. But because of this deal, is that the lottery were able to subsidise artists going into small venues, and it is something that suddenly you had. I think you had some huge artists, and I've forgotten some of the ones on this latest run of dates.
I've seen the Snuts were on it. The Snuts are playing the end of the night, aren't they? That's the only thing I noticed, because I would have went to see Carol Barat and the Snuts, but Carol Barat's tour was no Scottish dates, and
I know that the team had
Scottish dates for the Snuts.
I know that they, obviously, because of the way the restrictions worked in the different nations, is that suddenly it made it quite difficult, because there was a deadline for things to happen,
right?
But the restrictions hadn't been lifted, so it's kind of, so there was. I know that the Scottish dates, I think a few have been moved for artists. I think, but yeah, there was definitely that when everything was being put together, it was like, okay, this is our time period, we can do it, and it's like, well, we don't know whether we can do anything in Scotland or Wales or Northern Ireland. And so there was definitely a lot of thing
that will this be continuing the Revive Live with the lottery funding, do you think?
I don't know. I know that generally the feedback or the response from the lottery, especially the first round, was really good. And I think it was something that the intention is kind of that the lottery wants to do more for grassroots music, like they have done for sport over the years. Like every local sports club seems to have had some sort of funding from the lottery, which has helped get facilities up and help increase the standards within sport. But I think it's been perhaps noted that the grassroots music scene has been neglected a bit, and that most venues pre-COVID you walked into and the PA or something had been, there's gaffer tape holding things together and all of that, and it's kind of, it's like, well, what have we been able to buy here and there for it all to kind of work? And there's a lot of love and that's held the industry together for many years. But it is something going, actually, a bit of investment into it could help bring these things up a bit.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that everything's identikit and you don't walk in, it's just a box of everything being the same wherever you go. And because that isn't what grassroots venues are about. They're about the thing. But you need to have you need to know that you're going to have a good sound when you're going into a venue. And so these sort of things are helping do that, and getting people going in through venues is going to just help generate that. But it's that recognition. So I think I'd like to think there'll be more, but I'm not obviously party to those conversations. And if it does, I think it'll be something that could be a really beneficial thing for grassroots music across the country. And it could be something that kickstarts certain things for generations to come.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great idea, like the 2 for 1. Just being able to, like, I go to a lot of gigs myself, just because I'm not really interested in taking somebody and worrying whether they're enjoying it to the same level as myself. But I'd be more inclined to take somebody if it was something like that. 2 for 1. I've been to gigs. I went to see Jerry Cinnamon with my pal, and he took a panic attack 10 minutes before Jerry Cinnamon came on, and we managed to stay for his first 2 songs, and he's like, no, I've had enough, I need to go. So I think that was the last time, and I was like, no, I'll just start going to gigs myself, because I'm not putting up with that.
It is something of, that was one of the first things of round 1. There was not say it was criticism, but there was definitely an element of some people saying, well, I don't want to go with someone. I like going on my own. And it is the thing of, I then don't want to feel the pressure of having to find someone to go, because then I feel as though the venue's not going to be what it could be. So we actually, the second round, they added, you had to have like different levels of tickets that could be bought, so people could opt out of taking their +1, because that was one of the things we found in the first round in some of the smaller venues, that we put Bob Villan on at the Horn, and we sold our 100 tickets, and then with the +1s at 200, but there was probably about 140, 150 people in the venue, because a lot of people didn't bring +1s, or they booked as groups of 3.
Right.
Kind of that thing of suddenly was there going, well, actually the show's sold out, but how do you then, because as soon as it's sold out, not many people then try and get in on the night on the off chance. So it was one of those going, that's how you try and counteract it. And that's been something that we've had to deal with a lot since coming back after COVID without restrictions fully. Has been shows that had sold tickets, is that actually the number of no shows has been a real big thing for venues, not so much for promoters and artists, because the tickets are sold. So in terms of the financial aspect, that is kind of, they're going, well, actually the tickets have been sold. So therefore it's like everyone's getting paid based on that. But it's actually the venues have been the things which have then been impacted, because let's say, for argument's sake, you've got a venue that's 200 capacity, but only 120 people turn up. Well, they've probably staffed that venue for 200 people coming. Right. And they may have bought stock for that sort of level of night. And it becomes a thing of going, well, actually, those people not coming and then not spending the money over the bar, which pays for all of that, could actually have an impact financially on it.
Right.
And if they could, but I've spoken to people who've gone, well, the reason I didn't come is I didn't feel comfortable because of everything, but I didn't want to ask for money back because I know the industry's been hit. And it's like, well, okay. And it's like, it was only a tenner, or it's only a fiver, so I didn't think of anything of it. And so, okay, well, what's actually quite key is probably you'd have been better off either asking for the refund because of whatever, because it's been rearranged, because the ticket probably would have been resold, or using the ethical sort of ticket sites, so things like Tixel or Twickets, where there's a cap on how much you can sell it for. You can sell it for face value, basically. And it is that thing of going, well, actually use those sort of things, because the venues need people in them. the tickets sold is great, but if the people aren't in there,
that's really interesting because like your normal gig goer wouldn't think it like that, and I would have probably done the same thing. Or well, just no ask for my money back. But it's not until you put it like that
because as I say, for me, I'm a promoter. I've got a promotion company, but in terms of the operating of the paying the rates and obviously the rent of the building and the utilities and all of that, well, that's done by the venue, and they make their money from the bars. So if they're not receiving that money, well, I sit there and go, oh, brilliant, I've got a sold out show, but only 100 people turn up. Well, their bills don't suddenly drop for it. So I think it is something of, well, hopefully things kind of normalise a bit in the next month or two, and we're in a position that there'll be less, people feel less anxious about going to things. But that's not this. I know that's not going to change for the next year. Perhaps there's going to be elements of people who aren't going to feel comfortable going and being in crowded environments straight away. But I think it is something about just people being aware. I think most venues wouldn't have an issue of people asking to get a refund on tickets. Just don't wait for it until the very last minute. Don't ask for a refund 2 hours before doors, because the venue's not going to be able to resell it. So if you're thinking, I don't feel comfortable, I don't want to go, I can't make the new date because I booked it 3 years ago, you're actually better off getting that refund earlier and then giving the opportunity for people to take the ticket and be there. And again, like I said, it doesn't impact the artist. Well, it does when they've sold out a show and then you look out and they only see 60% of the room.
The funny thing is with it, obviously, like when restrictions kind of lifted, like August, September here, I've been to maybe 7 or 8 gigs or something between August and Christmas, because we'd missed that many gigs that you want to go and see everything. But what I noticed, I went to see Billy Bragg and I got the ticket 3 days before, and he was playing the Barrowlands in Glasgow, which I've never known to be able to buy I bought the ticket off the Ticketmaster, and then the same way the Libertines in November, I bought the ticket on the day of the gig off the Ticketmaster, which again, never heard of before. Like, these things are always sold out. So
well, I think that's the thing, is that I would say it's worth checking shows that you would be sold out or potentially had been sold out, because there are things popping up, because people are going, actually, I can't make it. And it's like that there'll be a football match on at the same time as a gig, or there'll be 3 gigs that you have booked all happen to be on the same night. Or it happens to be on a date that you couldn't do, but you wouldn't have known you couldn't have done it when it was happened. And that to me is the things, that these dates that have been rearranged, it is the thing of it. It's like some people will have forgotten about it, and I think there's a natural element to it. There were discussions going, well, do we sell extra tickets for shows? And so, well, no, because if everyone turns up, then you can't get them all in the venues. So therefore, you can't do that. So there is that scenario, and it is something of look, it's up to each individual, but I think it's something of, that was definitely something that's been noticeable. I would say in perhaps the last month or so, well, not a month, since the measures were relaxed in England, I've started to notice that the no-shows have started to drop. But I do think we've got fewer shows that have been rearranged now as well. We've got a lot more new dates opposed to shows that have been rearranged 3 or 4 times. We've got a handful left, but it is the thing of these dates are the original date now. So I think you're going to see less chance of a no-show on things like that. I think there's definitely been an element of bands suddenly not wanting to do shows as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of bands I've noticed, like the Snuts were one that were quite cautious in playing, because obviously there's good reason behind it. Obviously, if
with tours, it is something that if you catch it, you one of you test positive halfway through, then that's the tour completely scrapped. And I totally get that side of it, and it is something of that it is kind of, the tours are planned. There may be a skeptic in me that sometimes has said some tours have been moved because ticket sales weren't perhaps where people wanted them to be. That may just be me reading into some things too much, but I think there may be a thing. Actually, we'll wait a little bit longer to try and sell a few more tickets, but it's but you've got it's going to take time, and I think in terms of the grassroots scale of things are happening. The larger level, it's the nature of it is if you need 10,000 people, 5,000 people in a venue to make it work, well, you've got to be confident that's going to happen. But say these little venues, well, they operated with 20, 30 people on a Tuesday night before, so they're still going to be able to do that, and they're still going to be able to do these things. And just because someone's not playing at the Barrowlands or Brixton Academy till April, May, it's actually a perfect opportunity to get to grassroots venues and just show that bit of support. And paying £4, £5 to get in and having a couple of drinks will actually probably help those venues survive. And that is the thing. Without those venues, everyone's got through to this point. It's like, don't let them any go now. And that to me would be such a key thing to put across to anyone, is like literally help these venues get through this next sort of step where it's the rebuilding and the Revive Live element of things, because it'd be a travesty for a venue, or like if any venue's been fighting for 2 years to survive and then get to pretty much the end and then go. It would be, they've had all the financial support from governments and councils, and then to go at the final hurdle would be, or the next few months, and it's going to be that thing that there's going to be ups and downs. But it's like, go local. There's less risk of going to things which are local than there would be traveling halfway across the country, because you're kind of mingling in the same networks of people as well. So I think it is something of just it's not over, I think is kind of a key message.
Well, that's been brilliant. Look, you've been a brilliant guest, and it's been a really insightful conversation as well. Obviously, what we do towards the end of the podcast is I ask you for 4 heroes to come for dinner and what you're going to cook them as well. So it's just fire away.
I'll say I know you asked me this before, and there's so many things I go through in my head. It's like, who could it be? What reason? And it's going to be one of those that, as you can probably tell, I don't mind talking. But if I'm having a dinner party with 4 guests, I'm probably going to invite people I want to listen to and learn from and get their insight on things, and also may entertain me. And I'll say if I'm going to stick to sort of a music sort of related dinner party, I'm going to say I'm going to go with Liam Gallagher as a young, impressionable teenager, listening to him at that time. I was tempted to say Noel at the same one, just to listen to the two of them. But there are recordings of that sibling rivalry recording of them. Obviously, almost gives you that insight anyway. But so I'll stick with Liam.
Yeah. Very, very rare now for anybody to pick the two of them together.
I know, but they'll make it a great party. You wouldn't have to cook anything, because it'd be over before it started. There could be a broken guitar or two, but one person I'm gonna add, who people might know, hopefully they do know, is a guy called Andy Ross, who through my 15 years being involved in Juicebox has gone from someone I was introduced to as a band manager, and became quite a close friend and a real sort of mentor, and I think an unintentional mentor. And I met him out in a pub in Camden that was managing a band called Bleach at the time. And me being a big Oasis fan at the time, didn't put 2 and 2 together. This guy, Andy Ross, who was working in the music industry based in Camden, was the Andy Ross from Food Records.
All right.
who had been the guy who discovered Blur.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually my wife Rachel was sitting there when he went in to get us a drink. When you do realise that's Andy Ross, as in Andy Ross from Blur. Sadly, he passed away a couple of weeks ago, and he's, I say, one of those people with an incredible passion for music, shared his knowledge with so many people. So almost like on a sentimental thing for me, but it would be a thing of being able to just listen and chat with him about music, football, all of those things, and someone who's been there and done it. And he was one of the reasons that Blur v Oasis battle happened. And and sadly it didn't happen, but him and Alan McGee were due to go out on tour at some point with both of their sides of the story, and they became quite good friends. So
brilliant as well.
Yeah, so you mentioned about the videos. Mika did a brilliant one with Andy, and I really recommend going back to it. He's got a great story about him and Guns to Roses.
Yeah, I'm going to put a link at the end as well. I'm going to put a link for your website, so that'll be brilliant.
Thank you. Next one, John Lennon.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably quite an obvious one, but he's one of those people who at a young age influenced my musical taste through my dad. It was something of my dad was a huge Beatles fan, and Lennon was kind of one of those people that just was such an interesting character. And it was something of the way his music spoke to me. Just be something of having him sitting there. Well, I don't know whether with him and Liam in the same room, anyone else would be able to talk, because Liam would be asking him so many questions about so many things of how he can continue that legacy. But yeah, for me, just being there. And again, that's kind of the last one. I'm going to go with. There's a few. I'm going to say Pete Doherty, just for the Libertines thing. Yes, I've had the pleasure of meeting Pete a few times. Again, just one of those, a bit like Liam, is one of those people that when they're in the room, they light it up. They're full of charisma, and they are what they are. But always got something to say. Always going to listen to what they've got to say, and have been there, done it, and kind of I think just their experiences of music is there. But again, there's so many more I could have chosen, and one which was close to it again was Amy Winehouse and some various others. That there's a lot of interesting things. In terms of what would I cook them, I don't know. I just tell them, I'll give them a delivery order and just let them order it themselves, and I'll sit back and listen to the conversations and learn from some very inspirational people.
They're brilliant choices again. And Pete Doherty for a podcast called Time for Heroes. It's the first time any Libertines have ever been picked as a hero.
I was considering saying Carl, but obviously because I saw him recently when we put him on, so I'm not gonna sort of throw too much into that, because obviously I have had lots of dealings with him recently. So
I was trying to get. I had Rab Allen on the podcast a few episodes ago. Yeah, and at the time recording, they were organising James Allen's stag do.
Yeah,
and it was Alan McGee, Carol Barat, and Las Vegas all gone to Las Vegas. And I was like choking to get Carol on the podcast, and I was like, if there any chance that you could just invite me to the stag do, and then I can go to the stag do he's on, and we can talk about it there. So trying to shoehorn my way into a stag do with Alan McGee, Carol Barat, and like Las Vegas. But I've not had the invite yet, so I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, no, McGee was quite influential to us early on. Actually, he was one of those that I used to attend, like the Queen is Dead night at the venue that's closed down, Borderline. So I went there a few times, and it was something of, I remember just he was a big influence because the Oasis and Britpop thing. It was something I always listened to the music that he brought out, or worked with. So there was a lot of that. So, but yeah, there's so many people you could invite, and if you ask me again tomorrow, it'd be 4 completely different people.
Yeah, you do realise as well. I mean, I think you were worried about Liam and John Lennon together, but you've also got Liam and Pete together. which could get a bit tasty.
Well, actually, yeah, of course, I've completely forgot with the past relationships.
Yeah, so if you get space, I'll come to that as well, because I think that'd be brilliant to be in the company with them. That's been brilliant. So just before you go, what's your website? That's Juicebox.
It's juiceboxindie.com. So JUICEBOXINDIE.com.
So
and then through there find all the socials and various things and gig listings, history of what we've done, artists we've worked with, all of that. And yeah, if anyone wants to speak to me more, then they can generally find me through that one way or another.
Yeah.
No, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for contacting me, and I say, yeah, hopefully it's come across all right.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. Thank you very much.
I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Time for Heroes podcast. If you would like to get in touch, the best way is on the Facebook page, Time for Heroes podcast, or on Instagram at Time for Heroes podcast, or Twitter at Time for Heroes P1, or drop me an email at timeforheroespod@gmail.com. You'll find Time for Heroes on all podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, Google and Amazon. Please leave a review where you can, share with others, and more importantly, enjoy.